And hello, very good morning to all of you. Today we are going to see uh, a question which is about disciplining children. Now let's go ahead with the question in detail. This is the question here. It's important for children to learn the difference between right and wrong at an early age. Punishment is necessary to help them learn this distinction. So two sentences are there for the statement part. So we have the statement part, which I have highlighted in the yellow. So two sentences are there. Punishment is necessary to help children learn the difference between right and wrong at early age. So punishment is very important. So the role of punishment is somewhat great in disciplining children, in making them understand what is right and wrong. So this is what people believe. To what extent do you agree or disagree with this opinion? This is the first question. And the second question is there, what sort of punishment should parents and teachers be allowed to use to teach good behavior to children? So if you are giving punishment, so what sorts of punishment should be given? Now let us go ahead and see whether we should accept punishment or we should reject the proposal. And in case we are supporting punishment, at any case, if you are supporting punishment, you have to give the answer, what sorts of punishment should be allowed? Now, let us go ahead and see the first part, that is the introduction. Now, yes. It's widely believed that in order to make children distinguish between right and wrong, punishments are inevitable at their tender ages. So at their tender ages, at the very early stage, punishments are inevitable. So it is necessary, it is inevitable. So this is believed, it is widely believed. I can cancel off that widely and I can use the word generally. It is generally believed that in order to make children distinguish between right and wrong, punishments are inevitable at their tender ages. As better alternatives are available to discipline children, I cannot consider it as a mandatory option. So your opinion is there. I cannot consider it as a mandatory option. So there is a second question there. What sorts of punishment should parents and teachers be allowed to use to teach good behavior to children? So this question is unanswered here. The reason why is it unanswered is because we have not aligned to punishment. We just don't want punishment. And I said it cannot be a mandatory, it's not necessary. It's not necessary. And in case if you want to say something, in extraordinary cases, if you are giving punishment, let us see at the end what sorts of punishment we have to give. So in the beginning, in the introductory part, we have not given the answer for the second question. And let us go ahead with the first paragraph here. The first paragraph is the reason why I oppose punishments. What is the reason why I oppose the punishment? Is that the brains are not fully developed to learn what exactly is right and wrong. So this is the reason. This is the reason why I have said that punishments are not recommended at a very early age of a child, because they cannot distinguish. Their brains are not so developed to understand what is good, what is wrong. At this period, they would often find confused if they are disciplined. Now, if you are disciplining your children at this particular age, you can find them confused. The second reason why I think it is not advisable is because it might have some sorts of emotional disturbances. The first reason is that the brains are not fully developed. The second reason is because some sorts of emotional disturbances in them. So it might have some emotional disturbances. Punishments create some disturbances in the minds of the children. Adversely, this can affect. For example, if a child is punished physically or emotionally, it primarily creates negative emotions like stress, anxiety, panic, and aggression in varying levels. You know that negative emotions of stress, it can be affecting the child not so seriously, sometimes moderately, sometimes severely. So anxiety, stress, panic. So these sorts of negative emotions will be created, that is definite, and it will be impacting on the children in different levels. In some children, the impact of these may stay longer and would affect badly later in their life. In some children, the impact of these may stay longer, which would affect badly later in their life. Okay. So which would adversely affect their future life. That's good. Now we have better alternative. As a better alternative, parents and other elders should be good role models in front of the children of this tender age. So at this children, at their tender ages. So you know that instead of punishing them, elders and parents should be good role models in front. Now, this is what we can learn from our parents, from our elders. We are learning a lot more things. So if you see that most of the children learn from their parents, the good disciplines of the family background, everything is counted when, you know, that when the character of a child from a poor socioeconomic background will be different. And the character of a child from a family which has good standards of living, it will be different. So you know that you have if you are a child from a broken family, then naturally you might have negative emotions and negative attitude towards the society. But if your parents are behaving good, they are showing you good discipline, then naturally children will be learning that thing. So you have to say that parents and children, parents and other elders should be good role models in front of their children at their tender ages. Moral stories and moral stories and childhood plays. Okay. in which good behaviors are integrated. So we have two things, moral stories and childhood plays in which good behaviors are integrated. And this can also help children to understand the difference between good and bad better than disciplining them in harsh way. So we have option number one as parents being good models. Option number two, moral stories, in which good behaviors and these things, discipline, are integrated. When these options are there, it is not necessary to discipline children, and this can affect their minds adversely. It can create negative emotions, and they cannot absorb the punishment as a whole because they are not in a position to understand what is good and bad because their brain is not so developed. So this is what the summary up to this. Now, I admit that punishments are necessary in early childhood in case of children who exhibit extreme maladaptive behaviors. You know that when children show extreme maladaptive behaviors, they are absolutely adamant in some cases. So we can say punishments are recommended there. So this is what we have said. In case the children are exhibiting extreme indiscipline, then we can go ahead with the punishments. Except in such cases, punishments are advisable only in the later childhood, when they have almost attained adequate intellectual and emotional maturity to identify the consequence of their behavior. So in case of early childhood, there may be children who show extreme maladaptive behavior. In that case, you can go ahead with the punishment. And except in these cases, you know, that when children grow older and they can understand what is good and bad, and still they are continuing the wrong things, you can go ahead with the punishment. At this stage too, harsh corporal punishments are not recommended from the part of either parents or teachers. Now we have one more question there. What sorts of punishment should parents and teachers be allowed to use to teach good behavior to children? So we can give any sorts of punishment, but no harsh corporal punishments. So the options are there, very varying punishments are there, but you are not going to give them harsh corporal punishments. So I am not recommending, so I'm not suggesting what sorts of punishments you have to give to the children in case of, if you are giving punishment, early childhood or later childhood, whatever the stage, you are going to give punishments except harsh corporal punishments. To conclude, except in unavoidable situations, punishments are acceptable. Except in unavoidable situations, punishments are unacceptable in the early childhood. However, children can be punished in a lenient way in the later stages of their childhood if they behave wrong. Now, children can be punished in a lenient way in the later stages of their childhood if they behave wrong. So this is what we have discussed in the paragraphs. We have answered to the questions. So question number 1 and 2 we have answered, but you cannot find the answer for question number 2 in the introduction because we tend to disagree to the statement. And if you are giving in exceptional cases, if you are giving, you can say that this can be lenient punishments, and that's what we have said in the conclusion here. That's the end of the explanation. Have a nice day. Thank you.